Hello, today I'm here with Ash Kotak. Ash, thanks for joining me. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Gillian, thanks for having me. My name's Ash Kotak, and I'm the founder and artistic director of AIDS Memory UK, which is the campaign to establish the AIDS Memorial in London.
Fantastic. Well, tell me first of all, what made you decide to set up this project and how did you get everybody involved?
It was important to have an AIDS Memorial in London because so many people died and so many people were infected. But also important is to remember the epoch of HIV/AIDS, which is coming up to 50 years in 1978, when doctors in the United States first started seeing issues in their patients. So when you've gone through a period in the world where so much has happened, I mean, I think there's something like 44 million people living with HIV now, and over 40 million who have died. And it's a crisis which isn't over, which we can end. So, therefore, it's really important for us to continue the work and also to remember the past, to understand the present, working towards a better future for all of us.
So then that's a wonderful aim. Can you explain a little bit about what the AIDS Memorial Project will entail and what are the artistic elements that you've built in?
Okay, so it's a new public artwork in the centre of London, on Store Street, South Crescent Store Street to be precise, not far away from the Middlesex Hospital, where the first HIV inpatient treatment wards were established, and Diana shook hands with men living with AIDS, which changed world's opinion on people with HIV. It's really important to find a location which had some historical importance. So we went through a whole process of looking for an artist. There was many people who applied, and it went down to 20, and then it went down to 5, and the eventual winner, Anya Galaccio, was chosen. And her work is taking a tree, and it's in two parts. But the bottom of the tree is like a platform where you can have performances and people speaking, and then on its side you take out all the rings from the tree and stand them on the side, um, which represents lost generations. Anya lived through the HIV crisis in London, and she had lots of friends who died, so she was a very good artist. It was also great that we've got a woman, because a third of all people living with HIV in the UK are women. The highest new infection rate is young women between the ages of 15 and 24. And we had 1.4 million new infections last year worldwide. And 52% of people living with HIV today are women.
Now, community projects, as we know, often bring different types of people and I suppose organizations into the same room together. What's that been like for the project in terms of the energy, in terms of ideas, in terms of working together, et cetera, et cetera?
Anyone running a campaign like this has got to be a bit of a madman. It's taken us 10 years to get to this point. At a time when funding was being cut for HIV, there was a lot of unease within the HIV sector, and quite understandably, because they thought that this project will use a lot of money. We're actually bringing it in at a very reasonable amount of money. But at this stage, it's a new period. Look at how things are today. People on medication can't pass on HIV. There's no reason anyone should become infected. And there's no reason that anyone should die of an AIDS defining illness today. So we've got all the tools to end the HIV crisis worldwide. But there needs to be a lot more resolve and a lot more coming together. So people say, look, we really want to do this.
So then if this project were a conversation, would you say that people are still listening to each other?
Um, I think so. I think everyone needs to unite and be very focused at this point. I think worldwide on what our objectives are, because most of us living with HIV don't access the services as we used to, because we're living very well. We've got other issues as we get older, but I take one pill a day and I'm fine. And when I was diagnosed in 1993, I never knew I'd make it all these years later, because I was told basically, just enjoy the rest of your life. And most of my friends died. So to be able to lead the campaign for the AIDS Memorial in London was a real pleasure. It was taking so much angst, so much sorrow, so much pain, um, and sublimating it into something good through art that all of us can benefit from. And it's something will be placed in central London so everyone will understand and never forget exactly what happened. And HIV changed how we looked at the world. We were forced to look at it as it was. We had to look at gay sex, we had to look at migrants, we had to look at women, we had to look at injecting drug users, we had to look at the terrible crisis of the blood disorder community, who were infected with HIV because of bad practice. So it changed everything, and it changed how we are today. So that is something that we can now look at and try and get meaning from HIV.
You mentioned that funding was cut, which is something most artists come across. It's a very, very common thing in the arts world. So, what artistic decisions did you have to make or adapt or let go because of this funding cut specifically?
It's a very easy answer. I didn't. I had a vision. I was stuck to my vision. People wanted me to reduce the vision, but I didn't think that was possible, nor did I want to do it. I mean, we're talking about HIV and AIDS, 40 million people dying worldwide. I think we do um, have to make something quite huge so people will understand the enormity of HIV/AIDS over the last 50 years.
That's really, really admirable. So, if you were to say, looking back at the last 10 years, then what has the project achieved that you've been genuinely proud of?
In 2016, I nearly died. My heart packed up, and I was in hospital, and 10 people were working on me, defibrillator, and I survived. The doctor said they thought I wasn't going to make it. So at that point, I said, "What do I want to do next?" And there had been two projects prior to this current project that tried to establish an AIDS memorial in London. So I met all the people involved with that and asked their permission if I could take on the work. So it's a continuation of lots of other people's work. And then I went to Sean Berry at the London Assembly, and she helped me take it to the next stage. We petitioned the mayor, she advised me, and then we got the London Assembly to vote to support an AIDS memorial in London. And so we got the politics right from the beginning. And then it was a long journey trying to get the location. That was really hard. But luckily, Camden Council, the borough I live in, I emailed, actually, I texted through Twitter, I think, the head of the council, Georgia Gold, and she responded because her mother was at Penguin Books, so they'd lost a lot of people to AIDS. So she knew exactly the importance of this. And then she introduced me to councillors. And after that, we moved forward and we had a very good space. And so that was the next stage was to find an artist. So we, as I spoke about already, we went through that process. And then we had to get planning permission. And so everything was coming together. And once we have planning permission, we have a project, because then we raise the money to fabricate it and deliver it. And that was granted last month, in March, April 2026. So it's all very new. And now we move to the next stage, which is fundraising, fabrication, and launching.
So what's your timeline for this? I mean, and also if people wanted to find out more about the project, where can they go?
So the timeline is 2028. The AIDS Memorial London is in two parts. The public artwork by Anya Galaccio and a series of cultural projects which are put in together, which gives a reason why we're delivering the AIDS Memorial in London now and gives meaning to HIV and AIDS over the last 50 years. So look out for our events, go into our websites, or follow us on social media at AIDS Memory UK, or follow me personally at Ash Kotak, and come to our events. This has to be a community goal. So when we all come together, we demand that this is really important. We show the funders that we can't live on without commemorating what happened over the last 50 years in London and the UK. And therefore, we will get the money and let's finish the job together. And that will be great because I want us all to stand there together and say that all of us can say each one of us had some investment in the AIDS Memorial in London, and each one of us feel that we were part of having this delivered.
Well, I, for one, can't wait to see the fruits of your labor in 2028. Ash, thank you very much for speaking with me today.
Thank you, Gillian.